Welcome back to the comics class, and I'm excited because today we have a huge video for you. Because today we are covering the first comic of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's right, we're taking a look at the Avengers' first ever comic. As always, we're going to get into a little bit of background on the creation of the Avengers before we get into the comic. But first, I just want to mention that this is a new channel, so if you could please hit that like button and subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. So the Avengers were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and first appeared in the Avengers #1 in September of 1963, the same month as the very first X-Men issue. Now, the Avengers were not entirely created to be an answer to the Justice League. Marvel already made their own superhero team to counter the Justice League, and that was the Fantastic Four, which was wildly popular. What Marvel didn't have, though, was a team made up of individual heroes who had their own comics already, like the Justice League. Although there may be more to the story of why the Avengers were created. In an interview with Tom Brevoort, who serves as Marvel's Senior Vice President of Publishing, he claims that the Avengers were created as a response to one of their writers not turning in the first Daredevil comic in on time, because he suffered from a bad drinking problem, and them now having an open space in the comic schedule, Stan Lee suggested that they quickly threw together a team like the Justice League, because it would be a book that wouldn't require giving any background on characters, because there were already pre-existing heroes in the Marvel Universe. Kirby and Lee quickly threw together the Avengers, so if it wasn't for that one writer having a serious drinking problem, the Avengers may have never been born. Alright, let's dive into the issue itself. The Avengers #1. By just taking a look at the cover, you might notice one missing hero from the team, which of course is Captain America. And he actually doesn't become an Avenger till issue #4, when he is found frozen in ice. So the issue opens with Loki, who has been banished to the Isle of Silence by Odin, we know, always trying to kill his brother. And the Isle of Silence is a dimension just off of Asgard that inhabits a race of trolls. But Loki, being Loki, wants a rematch fight against Thor. The tough part about having a rematch for Loki is that he cannot physically leave the Isle of Silence. So his plan is to find a way to have Thor come to him. Loki can't physically leave. What he can do is use magic to send his disembodied self to Earth and create a situation where Thor is forced to go to Loki. We're shown that Loki finds Thor on Earth, and during Thor's first introduction to comics, he was actually a human by the name of Dr. Donald Blake, who found a wooden cane, and when he hits the cane on the ground, transforms into Thor. But the Don Blake Thor thing was pretty confusing, so eventually Marvel just dropped the Don Blake part altogether, and FYI, the nurse who is with him is actually Jane Foster. It is then shown Loki searching the Earth for hours to find a way to create enough chaos to force a visit by his brother, and he searches until he finds the Hulk. And although Loki knows that the Hulk is not a true villain, he also understands that he'll be very easy to manipulate. So what Loki does is project an image of some TNT on a railroad bridge, just as the Hulk is passing by. So Hulk, who sees a train approaching, leaps to grab the TNT, but just as he's about to grab it, the TNT disappears, and the Hulk is like, "Aw, snap," and smashes into the bridge, destroying it, just before the train is about to pass. And what Loki wants is for the Hulk to take the blame, which will result in the people of Earth trying to arrest the Hulk, which Thor would likely join in on. The Hulk is actually able to push the tracks up enough using his strength to allow the train to pass unharmed. Unfortunately, all those ungrateful people on the train witnessed the Hulk smashing the track and believe that he was attempting to purposely hurt them. And all the papers report that the Hulk is on another rampage. One of Hulk's friends, Rick Jones, reads the paper and he immediately wants to find answers if the Hulk is actually guilty. Notice that Rick Jones doesn't keep it out of the realm of possibility that the Hulk did do this on purpose, but he has his doubts. So Rick goes to the Team Brigade to contact the Fantastic Four to help find the Hulk. So if you don't know who Rick Jones is, he's actually the reason why Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk. He drove his car into the site for the gamma bomb test just as they were about to explode the bomb, which is why Bruce ran out there to save him. And when the bomb went off, Bruce was exposed to huge amounts of gamma radiation, which resulted in him becoming the Hulk. And Rick, feeling responsible, befriends the Hulk and tries to help him out. So Rick Jones goes to the Team Brigade to contact the Fantastic Four to help find the Hulk and get some answers. And what the Team Brigade is a network of communication created by Rick Jones. Is a way to help communicate information around the country to other heroes or to warn the Hulk about upcoming situations that might put him or other people around the Hulk in danger. So Rick Jones puts in the call to the Fantastic Four for help. But Loki is able to divert the radio waves so that Thor hears it instead, which causes Don Blake to transform into Thor, knowing how powerful the Hulk is. But what Loki didn't expect was that other heroes would also get that message too. The first heroes to answer the call other than Thor is Ant-Man and the Wasp, who immediately jump on some flying ants and begin their journey of 1,000 miles. And they are traveling by flying ants. And I was curious, so I looked it up, and the fastest flying ant can go at a max speed of 30 miles an hour. So they will arrive to Rick Jones in about 33 hours. The next hero to hear the message is Tony Stark.
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
and Tony, who is mostly curious if the Hulk's strength is greater than Iron Man's, pulls out his briefcase filled with his Iron Man armor, which basically looks like some long gold socks, begins his journey to the Teen Brigade. You may notice that he is rocking some all gold armor instead of his classic look, but he does get his iconic red and gold suit only 2 months after this issue is released, when he upgrades to a lighter suit. And coincidentally, all the heroes arrive to Rick Jones at the same time. So Loki, who has been watching everything the whole time, only wants to lure out Thor. So he tries to isolate him by projecting an image of the Hulk outside and having Thor chase after the Hulk. And when the Hulk finally stops, Thor then throws his hammer at the Hulk, but it goes right through him, and the projection of the Hulk fades away. And Thor immediately understands that these projections are a common trick of Loki, and he immediately makes his way to Asgard to confront him. However, Loki's deceptions are only known to Thor, leaving Iron Man, Ant-Man, and the Wasp still believing that the Hulk might be a dangerous villain. And this is when the story kind of falls off the rails, and you see the cheesiness of the 1960s comics, because we're then shown where the Hulk is hiding, and he has taken refuge with a traveling circus, while posing as a mechanical man. Yup, it's the Hulk in a clown outfit, juggling a horse, an elephant, and a seal. So I can just picture the Hulk showing up, already dressed like a clown robot, and the owner just being like, yeah, this makes sense, let's bring him in the act. But the Hulk's disguise is actually working. However, a tiny ant sees Hulk and says to himself, what is the matter with everyone? That giant green clown is clearly the Hulk. And he goes and tells Ant-Man where he has found him. So Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Iron Man then travel to the circus. And while the Hulk is still performing his act, Ant-Man orders thousands of ants to dig directly underneath the Hulk, which creates a pit that the Hulk then falls into. So the Hulk is then trapped inside the hole, even though the hole that the ants were shown digging previously is very different than the one that he fell into. But the Hulk angrily thrashes about till he creates enough room for him to leap out of. And keep in mind, this original version of the Hulk did not get stronger the more angry he became. When the Hulk was first introduced, he didn't become the Hulk when he was mad. He only became the Hulk at nighttime, and his strength basically stayed the same the entire time. However, Marvel was very inconsistent about when he transformed, but the Hulk then just wants to get away from everyone. He starts to leave. But before he can escape, Ant-Man drops a steel tube on top of him. But that, of course, does nothing, because the Hulk immediately breaks through the tube. Now the Hulk is done trying to keep his identity a secret, and he removes a tiny bit of paint from his face, and everyone in the audience is shocked and terrified to realize that it was really the Hulk the whole time. Like the giant green Hulk could really fool everyone by wearing some white lipstick. The Hulk then jumps through the top of the circus tent and attempts to escape the heroes. However, Iron Man is flying fast behind him, which is actually pretty impressive for Iron Man to be keeping up with the Hulk, because the Hulk has the ability to jump so hard and so fast that he can actually jump into space. What Iron Man can't do is slow down as fast as the Hulk. And when the Hulk lands one of his jumps, he hesitates just enough to allow Iron Man to fly by him, and the Hulk then jumps right on top of Iron Man and punches him out of the air. And this damages the battery on Tony's armor and ends the chase. But before the Hulk can leap away, Iron Man tells the Hulk that he just wants to help him. But the Hulk doesn't trust him and he leaps away. And that very much plays into one of the main themes of the Hulk. The Hulk's main desire in life is not to smash, destroy, and fight. He actually just wants to be left alone. The story then transitions to Thor, who is meeting with his father Odin and asking for permission to visit Loki. Odin agrees for Thor to make the journey to his brother, but he also tells Thor that when you get there, and if something happens between the two of you, don't be calling me, because both you and Loki are my son. And this makes sense, because Odin has always tried to make it clear that he truly does care for both Loki and Thor. And if Loki does get the upper hand on Thor, and he doesn't want Thor to have to call him and make him choose which side to take. Thor then begins his journey to the Isle of Silence, and Thor is trying to prepare himself for what is about to come, because Thor knows that he is certainly a powerful god. Loki's no pushover when it comes to his powers. And it's not just his powers you have to worry about, it's also his intelligence. And as Thor travels, he knows that he's going to be facing numerous obstacles that Loki has orchestrated, which Thor quickly finds to be true. Thor is first attacked by tangle roots that attack him from out of the water and try to engulf him, and then he next sees that the island's volcano has erupted. And what the volcano emits are these gas bubbles, and if they pop next to you, this will depower any god. So to avoid being hit by one of these bubbles, Thor then dives into the water and swims underneath his boat for the rest of the trip. When Thor's boat arrives, Loki is waiting for him, and Thor explodes out of the water, and the two immediately start to fight. Thor hurls his hammer at Loki, but Loki is able to quickly put up a shield of ice and deflect the hammer. And Thor, seeing that Loki has been expecting him, immediately confirms his suspicions that Loki was the one meddling on Earth. And he breaks through the ice shield, screaming that he will avenge him. And it looks like Thor is about to defeat Loki. However, that sneaky Loki has one more trap set for Thor. And Thor feels something grab his leg, And looking down, and Thor sees that a giant troll has came out of the ground, and the troll gives Thor a giant hug that involves way too much skin contact. And apparently when these trolls grab onto something, their grip is impossible to break. And as the troll is trying to drag down Thor into their underground caverns, Thor is able to tap his hammer on the ground and shoot a bolt of lightning at the troll. And this was another weird early Thor thing. So for Thor to actually use his powers over the elements, he had to tap his hammer on the ground. So 1 tap was to turn into Thor, 2 taps was to control the elements, and 3 taps was to turn back into Donald Blake. And the lightning that Thor shoots out blinds the touchy-feely troll, and Thor is able to return his focus on defeating Loki. Thor takes a swing at Loki with his hammer, but again, that sneaky Loki is using his magic to project several versions of himself. But this doesn't faze Thor at all. He just uses his hammer like a giant fan and blows away all the projections. He then magnetically charges his hammer and pulls the real Loki to him. And Loki, having no more tricks, is finally defeated by Thor. And Thor's plan is to now take Loki to Earth. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is for Thor bringing Loki to Earth, but that's his plan. The story then jumps back to the Hulk, where Iron Man has been able to repair his battery and catch up to him. And now they're in the city of Detroit. And the two are fighting inside an auto factory, which might explain why Detroit looks the way it does now. Hulk throws a piece of machinery at Iron Man, which Iron Man is able to catch, and then bends the steel into a grapple, and throws it back at Hulk, which pins Hulk against the wall. And Hulk is unable to free himself. So he uses his legs to push back through the wall, and the two fall outside. But before the two heroes can continue their battle, Thor flies in with Loki, and explains that his brother is behind the whole thing. Hulk, of course, wants to kick the out of Loki. However, suddenly Loki starts emitting a bright glow and apparently has made himself radioactive, which is a strange choice. And Loki tells Iron Man and Hulk to leave or they will be destroyed by the radiation. The next panel, with no explanation, suddenly has Loki back inside the building, just taking a stroll through the auto factory. And surprising to Loki, he falls through a trapdoor and into a lead-lined tank, which is quickly sealed by Ant-Man. Ant-Man then explains that this is where the trucks that carry radioactive waste from atomic tests dump their loads for disposal into the ocean. And this doesn't really explain anything, but it does raise a lot of questions. Like, why is the Detroit auto factory doing atomic tests? And then why are they dumping the waste into the ocean? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit was covered in radioactive waste. So all the heroes are now standing outside the tank containing Loki. And Thor says that in a few minutes he would take Loki out and take him back to Asgard. And as the comic wraps up, and before the heroes can leave, Ant-Man announces that he has something to say. That each hero here has different powers. If they combine forces, they would be almost unbeatable. Iron Man and Thor immediately think that working as a team is a great idea. Hulk says that he's sick of being hunted, so he'd rather join the team than have to fight them. But he asks what are they going to call themselves? And the Wasp says that their names should be colorful and dramatic, like the Avengers. And the team agrees to move forward with the name The Avengers. Thor claims that they will never be beaten, and Hulk says that he pities the guy who tries to beat us. Which the next guys to try to fight the Hulk are the Avengers, again. When another villain tricks the Avengers to fight the Hulk, again. And at the end of issue 2, Hulk leaves the team, and I'm pretty sure he's never been an official member of the Avengers since issue 2 in 1963. But that wraps up this video. If you liked it, make sure you slap that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.